Welcome to the Answers Yes podcast, where we interview some of the most interesting people that have said yes to opportunities in their life. We hope that through these stories, you can learn to create your own destiny by saying yes along the way. Join us as we explore the new series covering topics such as passion, integrity, and hard work. I'm your host, Jim Riley, and I hope you enjoy these interviews as much as I do. I believe that everyone has an important message worth hearing. Hello and welcome to Live Life Driven. This is the episode of the Answers Yes podcast. Thanks for tuning in. You know, I oftentimes like to have guests on the show that bring some valuable tools and resources to my listeners. And today is one of those days where I'm going to bring a great tool to you, especially with what's happening in our economy and the state of affairs in our country. And I think Zack Boothe, who's on the line right now, is going to be one of those great resources. Zack, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Now, I saw, I think through some of your hobbies or something or other, are you in the Northwest, or where is it that you live?
Yeah, I live in Utah. So I'm all over the Western Rockies here.
Yeah.
I love it. So
yeah. Good for you, man. I'm in West Valley, Kalispell, north of you, just outside of Glacier National Park in Montana, and love every minute of it up here. It's time of year is changing. It's getting a little bit colder out right now, and we're trying to readjust.
Yeah, we got some mountains right in our foothills behind our house. So we have, the Wasatch Mountains right outside of Salt Lake City.
Yep.
And there's snow all the way down to the city, and then there's still orange leaves and stuff. It's absolutely beautiful. Magnificent outside. What
a great place to be. I've got a couple friends that live down there. Sean Whalen from Lions Not Sheep. And another friend, Scott Travis, who's an artist down there, a couple great guys. They love living in Utah. And what's interesting about where you live, what you're doing, is it plays exactly into my audience, is here in Montana, we are seeing a crazy real estate boom. And it's like
everyone's fleeing California.
Well, imagine that, right?
Did I say that out loud? Whoops.
We say it all the time on this show.
Okay.
But you know what's interesting about that is that people are changing careers, they're changing habits, they're looking to buy, they're looking to sell, they're making transitions, and I'm seeing a ton of it here in Montana. I know you're seeing a lot of it in Utah and other very popular states right now that people are moving to from California. And your request came through from your publicist to be on the show. I thought, what perfect timing to have somebody in real estate that will be able to help others get into real estate or kind of circumnavigate what's going on out there. So if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about what you do and maybe some of your background.
Yeah. So background is I grew up working. My dad put me to work. There was no being soft on his boys. And I'm so grateful for that. But so I started when I was 11. I had done all sorts of different jobs by the time I was, 16. I had framed houses, finished carpentry. I worked for my family's business, mowing lawns and stuff for a while. Made handcrafted cheese, taxidermy. Like I had done a ton of different stuff. Worked in a wood mill. And so I started my first business when I was 17. And my dad, 16, he's like, hey, you're a man now. You pay for everything. You want a truck, you pay cash. I won't co-sign. Like you're in charge of your life. He paid for food, housing, and like $200 a year for clothing. That's it. So if I wanted to drive, insurance, gas, truck, all of it was on me. And I wanted to play basketball too. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, well, how do I do all this? And I was doing these jobs after school and the weekends when I could, when I wasn't doing basketball. And it's like, okay, I need something different, and that's the best blessing that my father gave me was when most people were just trying to have fun. I was thinking like, okay, how can I get more money with less time? Right. Right.
Yeah, there you go.
And so, $6 an hour just wasn't cutting it for my living expenses that I had at that age. And so I was like, all right, I got to start a business. So I started a window cleaning business. It was the thing that I came up with that I could afford to do, right? I could go buy a squeegee. I went and found an old paint bucket in the construction site down the street, cleaned it out, and I have my equipment, right? And I started going door to door and getting clients. My parents lived in a nice neighborhood at the time, and so it wasn't a terribly far walk. And I remember the first bid I got for $30 took me 2 hours. Like, that's $15 an hour.
Right.
I'm like, I'm going to crush it. And then my first day made $100. First day made $1,000. And it forced me to learn a ton about entrepreneurship, about sales, about bidding, about, hiring people. I hired my first employee when I was 17, my 18th birthday. I went, got my business license, got insured, got workman's comp, got everything that I needed to do to get the larger contracts, the banks and credit unions and dealerships and so forth. And, so I could have route work through the winter and everything else. And I grew that business for a decade, with a 2-year pause in there to serve a Christian mission in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And, awesome experience. I learned so much in that 12 years of my life. And more than anything, I learned I hated washing windows. And I knew there had to be a better way. From the outside looking in, I was super successful in that space. I had 3 trucks and 13 employees. I ended up on the History Channel because of the window cleaning, which was, just a few second stint, and they paid me $100 to use a clip, right? But I have YouTube videos on tutorials on how to wash windows still to this day on there. I've got one that's, I don't even know, 12, 15, 20 million views on one video. I don't know.
From your bio, you're the Gary V of YouTube for window washers, where he was for wine. It's unbelievable.
And it was accidental, right? I created tutorial videos to train employees.
Yeah.
Right. There wasn't a lot of tutorial stuff. And I got really fast. I wanted my technicians to generate $100 an hour in revenue. And I could hit as much as $200 an hour washing myself, but my shoulders falling apart. And so I was sick and tired I had a ton of turnover. So I wanted videos that they could, go back to and get all the steps and how to clean. And so those videos were how to wash windows for my employees, and they blew up. Right. Anyway, so from outside looking in, I was doing well, but man, the bigger I got, the more expenses I had, and the less my profits were there. Like I just wasn't making money. And then I was paycheck to paycheck. And then the moment that things changed, and I knew I had to make a change, was towards the end of my window washing career. My firstborn came into this world. Greatest moment of my life. And it was terrifying. And I remember being so upset because all I could think about is how am I going to pay these medical bills?
Yeah, sure.
Not how awesome is it to be a dad? So excited I got a little boy. Like we're going to have all these adventures, and like what I really wanted to focus on, I couldn't because of the stress and the emotional pressure that I felt to provide. And I knew I needed to do something different. So I started looking into real estate investing. I didn't have resources. I didn't have money. I had debt. So I was paycheck to paycheck with debt, like 99.9% of this country. Right.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do something new, and I heard about real estate investing. I'd read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was younger, and I wanted to get into real estate, but I kept hitting all these obstacles. I bought a duplex and was living in one side, which was awesome. I'm like, and my monthly payment was like $450. I bought it in 2012. And, we rented the one side for like $700. I was like, man, this is easy. I'm a brilliant guy. Like I just need to buy all these rentals and I'll be done. But then the bank's like, oh, you need 25% down now. It's like, well, I don't have that. And then even if I did have the 25% down, they needed debt to ratio, or they needed more income to allow me to get more debt. I didn't have it. So I was like, okay, well, now what do I do? How do I get into real estate without money, without resources, without a rich uncle to, sponsor me basically? And I found out about a thing that's called wholesaling, real estate wholesaling. So you guys can Google that if you don't know what it is and do a ton of research on it. But basically the concept is you do marketing, right? You find someone that wants a pawn shop for their house. They don't want to deal with it. They could sell it for more. They know it. They could fix it up themselves and flip it themselves. They don't want to. They want cash now for whatever reason. Inherited properties, tired landlords. They just don't want to deal with it. And I heard that you could get these properties at like 50 cents on the dollar, 40 cents on the dollar, and then assign those opportunities off to a flipper or buy and hold investor for a finder's fee, right? With no debt, no risk. And I'm like, that sounds too good to be true. There's no way you can make 30, 40, 50 grand flipping a contract, right? Like that doesn't exist. Major skeptic in the beginning, right? But I kept coming back to it, kept hearing about it, kept reading about it. And then I was washing windows for a very wealthy gentleman. He found out he was a real estate developer. I'm cleaning his mansion back in like 2016. And, I've been doing all this research, and I told him at the end of like an hour and a half conversation, hearing his life story, kind of like you hear on these podcasts. I was like, man, if I could just get 2 rentals this year, that would just be the greatest. He's like, oh, that's convenient. I've got these 2 properties. I don't want to deal with them. I haven't collected rents in 4 months. Property manager bailed. They got deferred maintenance. I don't want to deal with them. I'll sell them to you. It's like, great. How much? He said $500,000. It's a really good price, which it was. It was a huge discount. I'm like, sounds good. I'd love to buy them. I can't get a loan or I don't have the cash. And he's like, that's okay. I can be the bank. I'm like, oh, okay. And he's like, can you put 20% down? I was like, no, but I can put 2,000. You know, and he's like, oh, okay, that'll work. And he pulls out a piece of white paper and he starts writing down the agreement that we had just made. He's like, okay, just sign it, take it to the title company. He's educating me on how to like finalize the deal. I didn't know what I was doing. I was like, dude, don't we need like an actual purchase agreement from like an attorney? And like, I was trying to talk him out of doing the deal, you know, because I was so scared. And anyways, I ended up getting those properties and getting tenants out, just cleaning them, no remodeling, put tenants in place. I was making almost $1,000 a month passive after paying the debt. And within a year and a half later, I cashed both of them out and made over $100,000 profit.
Yeah.
And that made me go, wow, like it exists. You can find people that are more educated, you know, just don't want to deal with it. Right. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. And I was like, okay, all I got to do is I got to find Stan Nielsen. That was the guy's name, right? I got to find more Stan Nielsens. I got to find people that don't want to deal with this. And I can be a solution to their problem and I can make a lot of money. And so I paid for coaching. I figured out a lot of things. And ultimately I found that when someone has a property that they don't want to deal with, right? They want a pawn shop for it. The house has physical signs of neglect, because if the house is a thorn in their side, right, they inherited it and they have crappy siblings and the siblings are suing each other over the parent stuff and they don't want to deal with it. No one's cutting the lawn. Yeah. You know, tarps are going on the roof, maybe. Yeah. Right. You can tell like those houses are a problem. So I realized like that's the houses I need to find. I started driving around, identifying those houses and reaching out to the owners. And I came up with a system that that's what we do. We source investor opportunities and make a lot of money doing it. So we are in October where we've made over $1 million this year, just finding opportunities, right? So we do marketing, we find discounted opportunities and we get a finder's fee. Yeah. And it's allowed me to cherry pick the best of the deals to build a rental portfolio and cash flow and truly have financial freedom.
Yeah. I love that. You know, especially in a time where people, like I suggested earlier, they're searching, they're looking for something. People want to work from home now that they realize that we've got Zoom and all these great tools, but they're not quite sure what career path to go down. And, you know, especially in states like where we both live, we can just see the real estate boom happening right down the street from my house. Elderly woman, she's got 78 acres. She put it on the market for $2 million. She didn't want to deal with it. The house is a wreck, the barn's a wreck, etc. Yep. Somebody picked it up just as quick as she put it out there. I guarantee it was worth $4 million. But she didn't want to deal with it. And her family lives in Idaho, and she was skipping town. You know, so what you're saying is coming alive in my own backyard. And
it's everywhere. Yeah, it's in every country. Not every country, every state, every city, small towns, large towns. Like people trade convenience for price all the time. Yeah, all the time.
Yeah. So talk about real estate for a minute. I know you talked about how this led to success for you, and you've got a system to generate income. But, you know, there's skeptics out there, you know, I don't know if I want to be in real estate and the tagline of being in real estate and the negative, connotations of that with some. Talk a little bit about the great parts about real estate and where it's heading.
Well, to me, there's no negative downsides, right? And there's no negative like I love being in real estate. I love helping people in real estate. And I think a lot of times people talk about making a lot of money and they immediately put up this red flag and say scam, right? And the reason for that is because they've put a ceiling on themselves. Yeah. And anything above that, they have this fear and feeling, oh, it's too good to be true. So it's not true, right? They've put the barrier in the ceiling, right? And so really the problem is if you're a skeptic, really the problem's with you. And I can say that in a loving way because I was there, right? And it wasn't until I saw it happen that made me a believer, right? And so instead of me just criticizing you in a loving way, I thought, how can I serve these people and help them? Because I got blessed by a gift from God by meeting Stan Nielsen. And I said, how can I give that same blessing and gift to the skeptic, right? And I'm like, you know what? They just need to see it happen. Seeing's believing, right? So this January, I actually got a plane ticket. I took $1,000. I flew to Tampa, Florida. I've never been there. I rented an Airbnb and I rented a car and had a film guy follow me around. And the whole goal was to take that $1,000 and turn it over into over 40 grand in 40 days.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a major sacrifice on my part because I could have made way more money with more marketing dollars, right? But it wasn't about that. It was about showing people what's